The grand hall of the Galactic Council gleamed with polished stone and strange metals unknown to Earth. John Morgan adjusted his formal diplomatic uniform as he walked with his daughter Alice. She was only 12, with curious blue eyes and light brown hair tied back in a neat ponytail. This was her first trip to Centauri Prime, and her excitement showed in every step. "Remember what I told you," John said quietly. "Stay close, speak only when spoken to, and don't touch anything." Alice finished with a smile. "I know, Dad." John nodded, pride mixing with worry. As Earth's ambassador, he carried the weight of humanity's future. 30 years ago, humans had joined the Galactic Council as its newest and least advanced members. Many of the 27 alien species still viewed humans as primitive creatures, barely worthy of notice. The Veltraxian delegation passed by, their tall, slender bodies covered in scales that shifted color with their moods. Currently, they displayed a deep purple that John knew meant formal attentiveness. The High Counselor Drentak nodded slightly at John, but didn't stop. "They don't like us much, do they?" Alice whispered. "The Veltraxians value tradition above all else," John explained. "They've been part of the Council for thousands of years. We're newcomers." The diplomatic summit started with speeches John had heard many times before. He noticed Alice trying to sit still, fighting the boredom that would naturally come to any child. After 2 hours, there was a short break. "Can I use the restroom?" Alice asked. John checked his tablet. "It's down the hall to the left. Be quick. We restart in 5 minutes." "I will." Alice walked away, and John turned to speak with a representative from Proxima Colony. Their conversation about trade routes lasted longer than expected. When the summit resumed, John glanced at Alice's seat. Empty. A small worry grew in his chest. The meeting continued for another 20 minutes before the doors burst open. A group of Veltraxian guards entered, surrounded by their flashing red-colored scales. Between them stood Alice, her face pale with fear. "What is the meaning of this?" asked the council leader, a gaseous being contained in a transparent sphere. High Counselor Drentak stepped forward, scales now burning orange with rage. "This human child was found in the sacred chamber, touching the ancestral relics." The room erupted in shocked murmurs. John rushed to Alice's side. "It was an accident," Alice cried. "I got lost looking for the bathroom. The door was open, and I just wanted to look." Silence. Drentak's voice cut. 6 months passed, and Alice had not returned. John Morgan's office in the Earth Embassy on Centauri Prime had become his prison. Dark circles marked his eyes, and his once neat appearance had grown shabby. Every day, he sent messages to the Veltraxian authorities. Every day, the same reply came back. "The rehabilitation continues. Patience is required." Commander Ethan Wright knocked on the open door. He was a military attaché assigned to the embassy, and Alice had called him Uncle Ethan. "Any news?" Ethan asked, though he already knew the answer. John shook his head. "Nothing useful. I'm starting to think they're hiding something." "I think you're right," Ethan said, closing the door behind him. He lowered his voice. "I've been making some inquiries through unofficial channels." Hope flickered in John's tired eyes. "And I met someone, a clerk in the Council Records Department, a Narin named Zurin. He's sympathetic to humans." Ethan placed a small data drive on the desk. He risked a lot to get this. John picked up the drive with trembling hands. "What is it?" "Footage from the Veltraxian compound, from the day they took Alice." John plugged the drive into his computer. The screen flickered to life, showing a stark white room. 2 Veltraxian guards led Alice inside. Her face was streaked with tears, but she stood tall. A robed Veltraxian entered, High Counselor Drentak himself. Words were exchanged. The audio was poor, but Alice's voice came through. "Please, I want to go home. I didn't mean to." Drentak raised his hand, and Alice fell silent. He spoke formally, his scales shifting to a deep blue. Then, without warning, He produced a ceremonial blade. John's breath caught. No. On the deep beneath the lunar surface, lights flickered on for the first time in decades. Massive doors that had not moved in generations slowly groaned open. President Reeves stood with John Morgan, Commander Wright, and the Joint Chiefs in a control room filled with both ancient and modern technology. The public story, Admiral Dennison explained, is that our lunar bases are for research and limited defense. The truth is something else entirely. On massive screens, they watched as underground chambers larger than cities came alive. Thousands of ships, far more advanced than anything Earth publicly possessed, waited in perfect rows. When humanity first detected alien signals in 2089, we feared the worst. President Reeves said, "Our ancestors built this fleet in secret, preparing for possible invasion." Even after peaceful contact was established, each administration maintained and expanded the fleet. John stared at the screens in disbelief. All this time, the Council thinks we barely have interstellar capability. That was deliberate, Admiral Dennison said. We've presented ourselves as technologically inferior while building our true strength. The Ghost Fleet has been our insurance policy. One chamber, larger than the others, contained a single massive ship. Unlike the others, which were sleek and predatory, this one was clearly a command vessel. Its hull bore the name Retribution. "Now we need to wake the commander," President Reeves said. They moved deeper into the facility until they reached a cryogenics lab. Inside a specialized chamber lay a woman who appeared to be in her mid-40s. Monitors indicated she was in deep cryosleep. "This is Admiral Olivia Carter," President Reeves explained. 200 years ago, she was our most brilliant military strategist. When we built the Ghost Fleet, she volunteered for periodic cryosleep to maintain command continuity. "She's been asleep for centuries?" John asked. "She wakes for 1 year every few decades for updates and training. Her last active period was 20 years ago. She knows our enemies better than anyone." Technicians worked quickly to bring Admiral Carter out of cryosleep. Her vital signs strengthened, and her eyes finally opened. They were sharp and alert, as if she had merely been napping rather than frozen in time. "Madam President," Carter said, her voice raspy from disuse, "Protocol Lazarus has been activated." "Yes, Admiral. We face a threat to humanity." After Carter had dressed and been briefed, she reviewed the footage of Alice's execution. Her face remained composed, but her eyes hardened. "A child," she said simply. "They killed a child and thought there would be no consequences." John looked at the Admiral. "Can your fleet really stand against the Council? They have technologies we've never seen." Admiral Carter smiled thinly. "Mr. Morgan, the Ghost Fleet has incorporated technology recovered from a crashed alien vessel in 2124. We've had centuries to reverse engineer it and improve upon it. Our ships can outfight anything in the Council fleets." "Why keep all this hidden?" Commander Wright asked. "Earth could have demanded more respect in the Council." "Because," Admiral Carter explained, "once you show your full strength, you lose the advantage of surprise forever. Our ancestors were wise enough to know that sometimes appearing weak is the greatest strength." President Reeves turned to face them all. "We've sent one final warning to the Council. If they refuse to acknowledge their crime and deliver those responsible, we will act." "And if they do refuse?" John asked. "Then the Ghost Fleet launches," Admiral Carter said. "I've spent lifetimes preparing for this possibility. My crews are in cryosleep like I was, but they'll be ready." On the screens above them, thousands of status indicators changed from amber to green as systems activated. "The Council believes humans are peaceful to a fault," Admiral Carter continued. "They're about to learn what happens when humanity is pushed too far." As if responding to her words, the massive ship Retribution's engines glowed blue in their chamber. "They killed a child," John said quietly. "My child." Admiral Carter placed a hand on his shoulder. "And now they'll face the consequences of waking the sleeping giant." Lieutenant Daniel Harris had never seen a ship like the one he now stood on. He had served in Earth's public space force for 8 years, but the Vengeance was unlike anything in the official fleet. It was bigger, faster, and armed with weapons he didn't recognize. "First time on an Ancient?" asked the woman next to him. She wore the same new uniform as Daniel, with the Ghost Fleet insignia, a phantom ship against a starry background. "Is it that obvious?" Daniel asked. "I'm Susan Kelly, weapons officer," she said. "And yes, it's obvious. You keep staring at everything like a kid in a candy store." Daniel smiled. "I thought I knew what our best ships could do. Turns out we've been flying in minivans while keeping the race cars hidden." All around them, the massive lunar base hummed with activity. Thousands of men and women awoken from cryosleep moved with purpose, preparing ships that had waited in darkness for centuries. Many looked disoriented, having gone to sleep in one era and awakened in another. Admiral Carter's voice came over the announcement system. "All crew to their ships. Final launch preparations in 30 minutes. Daniel and Susan reported to Vengeance's bridge, where Captain Gregory Allen waited. He was older than most of the crew, with gray at his temples. "Lieutenant Harris," the captain said, "welcome aboard. I understand you have concerns about our mission." Daniel straightened. "Sir, I just questioned whether our technology, no matter how advanced it was centuries ago, can match what the Council races currently use." Captain Allen smiled. "A fair question. What do you know about the Quiet Engineers?" "Not much, sir. A small group that works on classified projects. For 200 years, while these ships slept, the Quiet Engineers have been upgrading them. Everything from weapons to propulsion to shields has been continuously improved. The Council thinks our fastest ships can reach half-light speed. Vengeance can do 90%. Daniel's eyes widened. "That's impossible." "That's classified," Captain Allen corrected. "And it's just the beginning of what we can do." On the main display, they watched as the first wave of ships powered up. The ceiling of the massive underground hangar opened to reveal the star-filled vacuum above. Sleek, predatory craft rose silently into space, their hulls gleaming in the starlight. "Beautiful," Susan whispered. On Earth, civilians looked up in confusion as thousands of unknown vessels emerged from the lunar surface. News channels broke into regular programming with panicked reports of a possible invasion. President Reeves quickly addressed the public, revealing only that Earth had activated previously undisclosed defense capabilities in response to the Galactic Council's actions. Back on Vengeance, Daniel watched the fleet form up. Ships of all sizes took positions in a formation that stretched for thousands of kilometers. At the center, the massive command ship Retribution dominated the view. "Receiving transmission from Admiral Carter," the communications officer announced. The Admiral's face appeared on screen. "This is a day I hoped would never come. The Galactic Council has been warned. They have refused to acknowledge their crime against humanity. They believe us weak. They are about to learn differently." She paused, her eyes scanning the camera as if looking at each crew member personally. "Some of you were born in different centuries. All of you sacrificed normal lives to be part of this shield for Earth. Today, that sacrifice has meaning. We go not to conquer, not for vengeance alone, but for justice. The Council must learn that humanity will not be dismissed or abused." As she spoke, the ship's engines glowed brighter, preparing for the jump to faster-than-light travel. "Our first target is Veltrax, homeworld of those directly responsible for the death of Alice Morgan. We will arrive before they even know we've left Earth orbit. May God have mercy on them, because we will not." The communication ended. Captain Allen turned to his crew. "Battle stations. Prepare for jump." Daniel felt the massive engines power up beneath him. The stars on the view screen suddenly stretched into lines as Vengeance, along with thousands of other ships, leaped forward at impossible speed. The Ghost Fleet had awakened, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Veltraxian defense minister stared in disbelief at the emergency alert, Thousands of unknown ships had appeared in orbit around Veltrax. They had arrived without warning, somehow bypassing all early detection systems. "Impossible," he whispered. "Check again." "The readings are confirmed," his aide replied, scales shifting to a fearful yellow. "The ships match no known design in our database." Before they could react further, every screen in the command center changed to show a human woman in a dark uniform. "I am Admiral Olivia Carter of Earth's Ghost Fleet," she said calmly. "Your world is now surrounded. Your orbital defenses are targeted. We have come for justice." The defense minister's scales flashed in anger. "This is an act of war. The Council will." "The Council is not here," Admiral Carter interrupted. "And this is not war. Not yet. We demand one thing: the immediate surrender of High Counselor Drentak and all who participated in the illegal execution of Alice Morgan, a human child." On the Retribution's bridge, Admiral Carter cut the transmission and turned to John Morgan, who stood silently watching. "They won't surrender him easily," Carter said. "Drentak is their highest authority." John nodded grimly. "Will you attack their cities?" "No," Carter replied. "We're not here to kill innocents. That would make us no better than them." She turned to her tactical officer. "Disable their orbital defense platforms. Precision strikes only." The Ghost Fleet moved with surgical precision. Beams of energy lanced down from multiple ships, striking key defense installations. Within minutes, Veltrax's orbital weapons were reduced to drifting debris. Not a single civilian target was hit. Meanwhile, a smaller stealth ship detached from the Vengeance. Inside, Major Ryan Foster briefed his Special Forces team. "Our mission is simple," he explained. "We extract High Counselor Drentak alive. No casualties unless absolutely necessary." One of his soldiers, a woman named Kate Peterson, checked her non-lethal weapons. "Sir, after what he did to that little girl." "I know," Foster replied. "But we're soldiers, not executioners. Justice comes later." Their ship silently landed near the Veltraxian High Council chamber. Using technology that made them nearly invisible to sensors, Foster's team infiltrated the building. They found Drentak surrounded by guards, preparing to evacuate. "High Counselor," Foster called out, weapons raised. "You're coming with us." The guards moved to protect Drentak, but precision stun blasts dropped them before they could fire. Drentak's scales pulsed with fear as Foster approached. "You cannot do this," the Veltraxian said. "I am protected by Council law." Foster activated his comm. Target secured. Extraction in progress. Across the galaxy, the news of Earth's attack spread quickly. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session, with many members joining virtually as they feared traveling. "This is unprecedented," shouted the Araxian representative, his tentacles waving in agitation. "Humans have hidden military capabilities and attacked a founding member world." The council leader tried to maintain order. "We must respond with unified force." "Why should we?" asked the Telleran delegate, her luminous eyes narrowed. "Veltrax violated our own laws by executing a child without proper trial or representation. Perhaps the humans are merely delivering the justice we failed to provide." The chamber erupted in arguments. Meanwhile, on the Retribution, Intelligence Officer Lisa Winters made a disturbing discovery. "Admiral," she said, rushing onto the bridge, "I've been analyzing the communications from the Council. Look at these messages between the Araxian representative and Drentak before Alice's execution." Carter reviewed the data, her expression darkening. "They planned this. The Araxians encouraged the Veltraxians to make an example of Alice. They wanted to test our response." John Morgan looked at the evidence, hands shaking with rage. "They used my daughter as a political experiment." "Yes," Lisa confirmed. "And there's more. Several council races were involved in this conspiracy. They feared Earth's growing influence and wanted to put us in our place." Admiral Carter turned to the communications officer. "Send all of this evidence on open channels to every world in the galaxy. Let them see the truth." As the conspiracy was exposed, public opinion across many worlds began to shift. The once unified council was beginning to fracture under the weight of its own corruption, and Earth's ghost fleet remained in orbit around Veltrax, a silent reminder that humanity would no longer be underestimated. The ghost fleet formed a protective ring around Veltrax, not to prevent anyone from leaving, but to stop any outside forces from attacking. Admiral Carter had made it clear this was not an invasion, but a security operation. On the Vengeance, Lieutenant Daniel Harris monitored long-range scanners. "Captain, we're picking up council ships mobilizing in nearby systems." Captain Allen nodded. "Expected. How many?" "At least 3 separate fleets. The Araxians are leading the largest group." In the council chambers, the emergency session had turned into chaos. The revelation that several senior members had conspired to provoke Earth had split the delegates into 3 clear factions. "We must strike now, while their fleet is concentrated at Veltrax," the Araxian representative demanded, his tentacles dark with rage. "And become complicit in your crimes," countered the Telleran delegate. "Your conspiracy cost an innocent child her life. My world will not join any action against Earth." "Nor will mine," added the Phylaxian ambassador, his crystalline form glittering under the chamber lights. The humans showed restraint. They could have destroyed Veltrax's cities, but chose precision strikes against military targets only. The third faction, led by the ancient Quarians, called for neutrality and diplomacy. "This conflict benefits no one. We must negotiate peace before it escalates further." Back on the Retribution, Ambassador John Morgan was brought to a secure holding cell. Inside, behind an energy barrier, sat High Counselor Drentak. The Veltraxian scales were a dull gray, a sign of stress. "You asked to speak with him," Admiral Carter said to John. "Are you sure about this?" John nodded. "I need to understand why." When the barrier was lowered, John entered slowly. Drentak looked up, his alien eyes unreadable. "The father," Drentak said quietly. "Have you come to kill me?" "No," John replied, sitting across from him. "I came to ask you one question. Why? Why did you kill my daughter?" Drentak's scales shifted slightly. "Your kind thinks everything is about individuals. It was never about your daughter specifically." "Then what was it about?" "Control. Fear." Drentak leaned forward. "Do you know how quickly humans have advanced? What took other species millennia, you accomplished in centuries. The Araxians showed us projections. In just 300 years, humans would dominate the galaxy. We needed to show your kind that there are consequences to your ambition." John struggled to control his anger. "She was a child. She was a symbol," Drentak replied. "The message was meant to be clear. Know your place." "And now, was it worth it? Your world is surrounded by ships you never knew existed." For the first time, Drentak's composure broke. "That's what terrifies us most. What else are you hiding? How did we misjudge your capabilities so severely?" Back on Earth, President Reeves received an unexpected communication. The Telleran Queen, leader of one of the most advanced council races, wished to speak privately. "President Reeves," the Queen's melodic voice came through. "My people have long suspected the corruption within the Council. We wish to formally align with Earth in this matter." "I appreciate the support," Reeves replied cautiously. "But why now?" "Because you have shown both strength and restraint, a rare combination. 7 other worlds are prepared to join an alliance with Earth. Together, we can reform the Council into something better." Similar messages arrived from other worlds. Some offered military support, others diplomatic backing. The galaxy was realigning itself around Earth's unexpected show of force. On the Retribution, Admiral Carter received these updates with cautious optimism. "It seems we're making friends," she told her officers. "But the Araxians are still gathering their fleet. They were the masterminds behind this plot, and they won't surrender easily." Lieutenant Harris from the Vengeance contacted the flagship with urgent news. "Admiral, We've detected unusual energy readings from the Araxian fleet. They appear to be arming some kind of superweapon. Carter's expression hardened. So they're not just coming to fight. They're coming to make an example of us, just like they did with Alice. She turned to her tactical officer. Alert all ships. Prepare for the largest space battle in human history. The Araxian fleet appeared near Proxima Centauri, just one jump away from the Earth system. Over 300 warships moved into attack formation. At their center was the Dominance, an enormous vessel twice the size of any other ship. Strange energy readings pulsed from its core. Admiral Carter split the Ghost Fleet, leaving enough ships to guard Veltrax while sending the main battle group to intercept the Araxians. The Retribution led the way, with the Vengeance and other heavy cruisers forming the front line. They outnumber us, Captain Allen told his crew on the Vengeance, but our technology is superior. Stay focused on your training. Lieutenant Daniel Harris manned the sensor station, monitoring the enemy fleet. Captain, I'm detecting unusual radiation from the Dominance. It doesn't match any weapon signature in our database. Send the readings to intelligence, Allen ordered. And keep your eyes open. The two fleets met in the empty space near Proxima Centauri. For a moment, silence hung between them. Then the Araxian commander's image appeared on communication screens throughout the human fleet. This is Supreme Commander Vorax of the Araxian Dominion, he announced, his tentacles rippling with aggression. Your defiance ends today. Surrender now or be destroyed. Admiral Carter's response was brief. We will not surrender to those who murder children. The battle erupted with blinding intensity. The Araxian ships launched the first volley, energy weapons slicing through space. The Ghost Fleet responded with precision fire, targeting engines and weapons systems rather than destroying ships outright. On the Vengeance, Lieutenant Harris worked frantically as the ship shook from enemy fire. Their shields were holding, but barely. Port shields down to 40%. He called out. Captain Allen remained calm. Evasive pattern Delta. Target their lead destroyer's weapon arrays. The Vengeance rolled sharply, avoiding the worst of an energy blast, then fired its main batteries. The Araxian destroyer's weapons went dark. Across the battlefield, the human fleet executed Admiral Carter's strategy perfectly. Instead of meeting the Araxians head-on, they split into smaller groups, using their superior speed and maneuverability to confuse and divide the enemy. On the Retribution, Intelligence Officer Lisa Winters burst onto the bridge. Admiral, we've analyzed the readings from the Dominance. It's a planet killer. They're planning to jump past our fleet and attack Earth directly. Carter's face hardened. So that's their game. They want to make Earth an example. She turned to her tactical officer. New priority target. The Dominance. All available ships. The battle shifted as human vessels converged on the massive Araxian flagship. The Dominance responded with devastating firepower, destroying 2 human cruisers and damaging several others. The Vengeance took a direct hit to its engine section. Fires broke out on 3 decks, and emergency bulkheads slammed shut. Damage report, Captain Allen demanded. FTL drive offline, came the response. Weapons at 60%. We have casualties on Deck 7. Lieutenant Harris looked up from his console. Captain, there's a civilian transport caught in the battle zone. It must have been making a regular run when the fighting started. On the view screen, they could see a small passenger ship drifting helplessly near the battle, its engines damaged. Araxian vessels were turning toward it. They're going to destroy it as an example. Allen realized. Helm, intercept course. Sir, our shields are already damaged. Harris objected. Those are civilians, Lieutenant. We protect them. That's the difference between us and them. The Vengeance moved to position itself between the transport and the approaching Araxian destroyers. It took the full force of enemy fire meant for the civilian ship. Alarms blared throughout the vessel as systems failed. Harris clung to his station as the ship shuddered violently. Through the chaos, he saw Captain Allen still standing, giving orders calmly even as cables sparked overhead. "Keep firing," Alan commanded. "Get that transport to safety." Across the battlefield, Admiral Carter watched the Vengeance's sacrifice. All ships converge on the Vengeance's position. Cover their retreat. Then, to her weapons officer, prepare the light spear. Target the Dominance's main reactor. The Retribution's hull plates shifted, revealing a weapon unlike any seen before. Energy gathered at its tip, building to impossible levels. "For Alice," Carter whispered as she gave the order to fire. The light spear fired. A beam of pure white energy lanced across space and struck the Dominance with perfect precision. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the massive Araxian flagship split apart from within. Its reactor core breached. The explosion bloomed like a newborn sun, temporarily blinding sensors across both fleets. When the light faded, the Dominance was gone. In its place drifted scattered debris. The remaining Araxian ships froze in position, their crews shocked by the sudden destruction of their flagship and leadership. Admiral Carter wasted no time. "All ships target remaining Araxian vessels. Weapons lock only. Do not fire unless fired upon." A tense minute passed. Then, one by one, the Araxian ships powered down their weapons. Their new commander opened a channel to the Retribution. "We surrender," the Araxian said, his tentacles limp with defeat. "The battle is yours." News of the victory spread quickly across the galaxy. On hundreds of worlds, people watched recordings of the battle, especially the moment when the Vengeance sacrificed itself to save a civilian transport. The image became a powerful symbol of Earth's values. The damaged Vengeance limped back to a makeshift repair station near Veltrax. Lieutenant Harris, his uniform torn and dirty, helped the wounded to medical bays. Though the ship had survived, many good people had not. "You did well today, Lieutenant," Captain Allen said, his arm in a makeshift sling. "Your quick sensor work saved lives." "Thank you, sir," Harris replied. "But I still don't understand why they would build a weapon to destroy planets. What would that achieve?" "Fear," Allen said simply. "They wanted the galaxy to fear them, not respect them. That's where they failed." On Earth, President Reeves addressed the Reformed Council. Many of the corrupt members had been removed, including the entire Araxian delegation. New representatives from previously ignored worlds now had seats at the table. "Today marks a new beginning," President Reeves said. "Not just for Earth, but for all our worlds." The old council ruled through secrecy and fear. The new council will govern through openness and mutual respect. The Telleran Queen, now serving as temporary council leader, nodded in agreement. "And in this spirit of openness, we ask Earth, what will you do with your ghost fleet now that the crisis has passed?" John Morgan stepped forward. As the father of Alice, whose death had triggered these events, his voice carried special weight. "The fleet will remain," he said firmly. "Not as a threat, but as a promise that we will defend the innocent. However, we will share some of our technology with trusted allies. No single world should have powers others cannot counter." After the meeting, John visited the cell where Drentak was held. The Veltraxian seemed smaller somehow, his once vibrant scales now permanently gray. "The council has voted," John told him. "Those who conspired to kill my daughter will face justice, but there will be no executions, no more deaths in Alice's name." Drentak looked up in surprise. "After what I did, you spare me." "Justice isn't about revenge," John said. "Alice wouldn't want more killing. She would want a better galaxy for everyone." Back on the Retribution, Admiral Carter stood before a memorial wall where the names of those lost in battle were displayed. Lieutenant Harris joined her, still bandaged from his injuries. "Will you return to cryosleep now?" he asked. Carter touched the wall gently. "Not yet. The fleet is needed here, in this time. And I've missed too much of human history already." 1 month later, people from across the galaxy gathered on Earth for a solemn ceremony. In a quiet park, a small statue was unveiled, a bronze figure of a young girl looking up at the stars with wonder. The plaque read simply, "Alice Morgan. Her death brought justice. Her memory brings peace." Representatives from 27 worlds placed flowers at the base of the statue. Among them were former enemies now working together. As night fell and stars appeared above, Admiral Carter stood with John Morgan, looking up at the same stars Alice had once gazed upon with such curiosity. "She would be proud," Carter said softly. "One small life that changed the galaxy." John nodded. "Not the way I would have chosen. But yes, she would be proud." Above them, invisible in the night sky, the Ghost Fleet maintained its vigilant watch, a reminder that humanity had found its place among the stars, not through fear, but through courage, sacrifice, and an unwavering commitment to justice.